Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Penny and I am a gymnastics coach, personal trainer and nutritionist. And today we're going to go through a strength workout with a little bit of power as well and a little bit of core work. Today's workout is going to need just a set of dumbbells or a range of dumbbells or adjustable dumbbells if you have those, one or two resistance bands, but those are optional, and something like a bench or a chair or a box. So let's get things started. Okay, we're going to kick things off with our first warm-up exercise. This is a half kneeling banded T-spine rotation. Quite a long name. Basically, we're going to find a flat wall and we're going to come into a half kneeling position. So that is also a lunge position. You have lots of options with this one. So as we go through, I'm going to give you lots of options. But to begin with, we're going to set up with our knee and our foot pressed up against the wall, and then the same arm is going to also be pressed up against the wall with our shoulder touching. And then we're going to have that back knee on the ground and our back foot tucked under. However, there is a harder version where you can hover and keep that back knee off the ground, but we're just going to do knee on the ground. Then if you have a band, you can use a band. If you don't have a band, you can totally do this without a band. So we're going to start off there. We're going to keep that arm touching the wall and both of our palms are going to come together. Then we're going to slide back to try to get that whole arm to touch the wall on the opposite side. If you really have that range of motion, then you're going to see if you can get this back of this shoulder to touch the wall. So we're going to do 8. Keeping that front knee touching the wall, keeping that front hand touching the wall. If the ground that you're on is a little bit too hard, you might need something soft like a blanket or a yoga mat or a cushion under that back knee. But we're trying to get, whilst keeping this whole front arm in contact with the front wall, we're trying to make a T shape through both arms. I'm going to do 8. As usual, I didn't count, but I think that was 8. And then we're going to swap over to the other side. So as I said, same arm and same leg touching the wall, and then we're trying to open all the way up to get that shoulder, elbow and hand to touch the wall on the other side. You should feel the back of your shoulder blade, those muscles through your upper back working as you're trying to get that arm closer to the wall. If your range of motion is limited and you're only getting to here, that's fine. We're just going to see if we can try to pause in that position or even try to increase that range of motion with each rep. So that's our first warm-up exercise. You've got 8 reps each side. On the next round, I'll show you how to do it with a band. Okay, moving on to warm-up exercise number 2. We're going to come down to a deep squat. So we're going to have our feet slightly wider than hip width. I like to have my feet a little bit, probably about shoulder width, and then my toes are turned out a few degrees on each foot. However, squat stance is a pretty individualized thing. You might feel more comfortable with your legs a little bit more narrow. You might find that you need to get your feet a lot wider in order to get down into that squat position. So you just need to maybe have a little play around with what suits you. I'm going to come down into a deep squat. So we're trying to keep our chest tall, but getting our hips nice and low. Now I have a very good range of motion for my squat, largely due to my gymnastics background, but also I've been squatting for a very long time. When we're down in this position, we're trying to get our hips as low as possible. For me, I can get my bum all the way almost to my heels. You may only be able to get your hips in line with your knees. And if you can't get into that deep squat position and you're not able to hold your weight, you can actually get something to sit on. You might get a stool or some yoga blocks, or you could use something like a medicine ball if you've got that handy. So you can come down to a squat, resting, getting that range of motion, but it's not such an intense experience. So go to where suits you. If you need to go a little bit higher, going a little bit higher is fine. Anyways, so that's an option for you. So we're coming down into this deep squat position. We're gonna hang out here for a few seconds and we're gonna see if we can get our chest up nice and tall, pressing my knees out nice and wide, and my weight is through my full feet. So I don't have my weight just in my heels or just in my toes, my heels, and either side of the ball of my foot is pressed into the ground. Then I'm gonna try to keep my fingers in contact with the floor as I raise my hips and straighten my legs and let my shoulders drop forward. I'm gonna hold that for 2 seconds and then we're gonna come back down to that deep squat position. So we're gonna do 6 reps here. So hanging out for maybe 2 breaths in that squat position, remembering to keep our chest up tall, and then extending the legs, lifting the hips, and trying to keep those hands in contact with the ground. If you cannot get your legs all the way straight in that hamstring stretch, that's fine. Or if you need to lift your hands and bring them up onto your shins, also fine. You do the version that suits you. Just to give you a little bit of a look from the side, chest up tall, in that deep squat, shoulders dropping, legs straightening, hips lifting. So each time we change positions, we're trying to get just that little bit further or deeper into that stretch. Little bit straighter legs each time. 6 reps. We'll do 1 more here. And then bringing it back down. And those are our 2 warm-up exercises for today's workout. So we're going to go back over to the wall for our half kneeling rotations. Alrighty, round 2. This time we're going to give the band a go. So, as I mentioned in round 1, you can have that back knee hovering. I'm choosing not to do that today. However, if you want to give yourself a bit of a challenge, press through the ball of your foot and try and lift that back knee off the ground. Even if you do it for a few reps and then you let the back knee drop down, that's going to be a little bit of an extra progression. Then to hold onto the band, I like to grip it in my first hand and then wedge that arm against the wall. And then I'm going to bend and pull the band as I extend that arm behind me to try to touch the wall. Now, the good thing about bands, you don't need to use a loop band. You can use a TheraBand, which is like a long piece of ribbon-like band. Whatever you have handy, I would recommend light, not heavy for this. Obviously, if you have a very strong upper back or you've been doing similar exercises, you might find that you can use a heavier band, but a light band, I find, is sufficient for this exercise. But you can see that if I want to make it harder, I just bring the piece of band between my hands and make it a little bit smaller. And then if I want to make it easier, I extend my hand further away along the band, and then there is less resistance. So this is a really adaptable exercise depending on your own strength and abilities and mobility. But if you're not able to get that arm all the way back without the band, then I'd recommend just doing this can't get your hand all the way back without the band, then just stick to doing it without the band until you can get that arm all the way back to the wall. Swapping to the other side, remembering we're doing 8 reps. So thinking about trying to keep that front arm and that front shoulder and that front knee anchored nice and strong to the wall. And then you can see that I start with my shoulders facing the same direction as my front leg, but then I am trying to turn my shoulders and my ribs and my torso, so we're getting a little bit of rotation through that spine, hence the name, so that I'm facing sideways as that arm goes back to the wall. If you don't like the band coming through under your chin, you can always just drop your arm a little bit. As I said, 8 each side. Round 2 of our deep squat to hammy stretch. So getting into that squat position, holding for a few seconds. I like to really use my elbows on my hands to press my knees out to open up my hips that little bit more. Plus it gives you a bit more leverage to press my chest up in the bottom of the squat. And then as I'm extending my legs, I think about pushing my hips backwards, and that really lengthens the hamstrings. So we're doing 6 reps here. Taking nice deep breaths in and out in each position. And remembering that we're really trying to lift that chest in each deep squat, and then drop our shoulders in each hamstring stretch, so that we're getting that range of motion increasing as we go. I feel like that might be one too many. Cool. That's our 2 rounds of warm-up. If you feel the need, you can go into a 3rd round, but today we're going to press straight on into our power superset. Okay, so starting things off with power, the way I coach power or power training might be a little bit different to how, if you have a gymnastics background, you might have been told to train power. So when gymnasts think about power training, they think about a lot of rebounding or plyos, often done on the sprung floor. We're thinking plyo box jumps to front tuck, such a common power exercise. When it comes to a fitness or a strength and conditioning approach to power, it's a little bit different. When it comes to strength and conditioning, we classify power as the kind of exercise that requires full body explosive movements. And yes, plyometrics can be incorporated into power, but it does encompass a whole lot of other things. And often in gymnastics, power was also associated with endurance cardiovascular work, and that's not the goal here. So for that reason, if you do have a gymnastics background, this power circuit might look a little bit different to what you expect. So the other thing to note about power is because it is quite fast, it's quite explosive and dynamic, that can have an associated risk. The faster we move, the more dynamic, the more we ask of our body in a short period of time, especially if the body isn't conditioned to that, that can allow uncontrolled movements. That would be probably, in my opinion, the highest risk with really fast, dynamic, explosive work, is it can be a little bit uncontrolled. So for that reason, I'm going to give you lots of regressions here. Okay, we're going to use the box. If you don't have a box, you could probably go outside and use like a ledge, but obviously make sure that it's safe, make sure that it's a stable surface, make sure there aren't any potholes around for ankle rolling, all those kinds of things. But I've got a box. You could use a bench or even quite a large chair, but it would have to be quite large because we're going to be jumping ideally. So we're going to aim to do 5 reps of a box jump up and then a depth drop off. okay? So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then we'll go into our progressions and regressions. So I teach jumping with feet hip width apart. Once again, if you have a gymnastics background, you might have been taught that you have to do everything with your legs together. Today, we're going to be doing this whole sequence with our legs hip width apart, with our toes pointing straight ahead, and that is why we need to have a really good, ideally you would like to have a fairly good squat and good squat mechanics. If you have sore knees when you squat, I'm going to give you an option to do instead of this. So we're going to do a box jump up onto the box, ideally landing with our hips higher than our knees. So I don't want to see really wide feet positions, really narrow feet positions. I don't want to see our hips dropping below our knees and bottoming out. So that means that our legs have disengaged and our muscles aren't actually controlling the movement anymore. So we want to see feet hip width apart, a nice high hip position when we land, and then we're going to stand up. Then all we're going to do is step one foot over the edge, and we're going to drop onto 2 feet and try and make a nice, smooth, soft landing. Then we're going to walk back around to the other side, or you could just turn around. 5 reps. So obviously, depending on your fitness level, your conditioning level, your training experience, this could be really basic, or it might be beyond your capacity. If this is really basic, you have a few options. Obviously, you can raise the height that we're jumping up to. I'm not going to do it with this box because it is very narrow. And if I jump up and have a misstep, I am falling. But I would normally go up to about a box that's just above knee height, maybe mid-thigh. Doesn't need to be crazy high. Then the other option is to do a weighted jump up onto the box. We start very, very light and we very gradually progress the weight. So 1 kilo dumbbell in each hand would probably be where I would start there. And then you can progress up. In terms of regressions, there are so many options. The simplest and most applicable is a step up and a step down. Okay? No impact. You can create the step or use a step that suits the height that you're capable of stepping up and down onto without pain and with confidence, without risking falling. That's going to be your most obvious option, okay? Alternatively, we just drop the box or drop the height and we do a much smaller height box jump and a much smaller height depth drop. That's our first power exercise. Moving on to our second. This one I absolutely love, and I think it's really underused. So the only prerequisite for this one is you need to be able to do a push-up. But you don't actually even need to be able to do a push-up on your feet. You can perform this on your knees. So we're going to do a plyo push-up. Once again, as with all of my workouts, there are always lots of progression and regression options. But I'm going to show you the version that we're aiming for. If you have the capability, fantastic. We're just going to do 6 reps. So it is a push-up chest tuck. We're going to go up onto our feet. We're going to perform a normal push-up, but on the ascent, we're going to see if we can explode out of the floor and get those hands up to our chest. And like I said, the goal is to do 6 reps. Okay. A few things to note there. The goal is to keep your body straight as you're pushing up out of the floor. So if this is beyond your capacity, you might start to notice that the hips rise. The legs bend, or if we're not getting enough lift out of the push-up, we're catching really close to our chest or our face getting close to the floor. We don't want to do any of those. Easy solve, we just go onto our knees. So exactly the same, but hips are flat, and we're doing our push-up chest taps on our knees. Really easy, okay? More regression options though. So if you have a box or a ledge handy, you can use a box. Just make sure it's not going to slide out in front of you as you're pushing your hands through. And then in the next round, I'm going to show you a lot of alternatives to the pop chest tap version. But let's go back to our box jumps. We're going into our round 2 of our power sequence. We're going to do at least 3 rounds of this, but if you have time, I want you to do 5 because the reps are quite low. We're doing 5 box jumps and 6 push-ups. We want to try to get through a few more reps. We also want to make sure we're not out of breath when we're doing these. We don't want to feel puffed for any of the reps, okay? So box jump up, depth drop. With that depth drop, you can add a little bit of height off the box as you start to feel more confident and comfortable. I want you to pay attention to my knees here. Watch them as I land. They're not caving. They're not going out to the sides. My feet are nice and steady. I don't land really rigidly. I use my toe, ankle, knee, hip, and shoulder to act like a spring to absorb that force. That's what we're looking for. These are so great for gymnasts. And if you notice that you have any issues with your depth drop at this height, especially if you're a gymnast, then that definitely means that any tumbling or any impact is probably also going to be an issue. So we fix it here before we expect to have a good landing from a somersault or from a height or from speed. Okay, we're doing our 6 plyo push-ups. This round, I'm going to show you all of the regressions that have no impact. So if you are capable, you're going to do 6 reps on your feet trying to do a chest tap. If we're not ready for that though, you've got the option of doing it on your knees or with your hands on a raised surface. I'm going to show you the no impact version. So you can either go on your feet with your feet hip width apart. We're going to come up and do a shoulder tap to the opposite arm. And you can do the same thing on your knees. Remembering that if push-up is beyond your capacity, you can raise your hands or you just decrease the range of motion. So if we're going to the floor, bottoming out, and we're not able to get back up again, that actually in itself is a really good push-up progression. So descending as slowly as you can, but then letting your body release at the bottom and then reset. You can do that on your knees as well. But if you want to keep that momentum, then we just go to the range of motion that you can keep control. If you have issues with wrists, get yourself a set of push-up handles. I'll show you. You can get these from like most all-purpose stores like Kmart, Walmart, and then obviously from sports stores. They're not expensive at all. However, if you don't have those, you can just use your dumbbells. Like I showed you in my previous video, you can use your dumbbells to change the range of motion for your wrist. So if your wrist, when we push up, we've got like a right angle going through our wrist. You use the dumbbells, you can crank your knuckle towards the floor and straighten the back of your wrist. And once again, if we need to regress the range of motion and not go all the way down to the floor, that's totally fine. Okay, so that's 2 rounds. We're going to do 1 more round with me. Like I said, if you want to do rounds 4 and 5, I 100% encourage you to do that, but we're looking at time. I want to make sure this workout doesn't go for over an hour. So we're going to do 1 more round, and then we're going to get into the strength component of today's session. Alrighty, 5 reps here. I'm going to try and get as much explosive lift up into that box jump, and then a really soft, absorbing landing with the death drop. You'll notice that I alternate the foot that I put out in front each time I'm dropping off. That's just to make sure that both legs are working that coordination. Last one, nice and tall, beautiful. Then we're going into our plyo push-ups for 6 reps. Right there. I'm going to try to keep my hips nice and flat because that's something that I have a tendency to do. A little bit of hip lift. I'm going to try and get as much explosion. Cool. That is our power component of today's workout done. We're going to go on to strength. Okay, we're going to go into our first strength superset. Superset means we have 2 exercises to do, one after the other. Then we're going to rest after the second exercise. Our first exercise in this superset is RDL, or Romanian deadlifts. Once again, or as always, I'm going to give you a few different options. Because this is a dumbbell only intended workout, my assumption is we don't have a lot of weight or weight range to work with. So we're going to try to be making the exercise challenging with a very small weight range. So starting off with the RDL, we're going to do bilateral RDL. So that means we're using both legs or both feet to begin with. That's our base exercise. If you are doing that exercise, we're going to be doing 12 reps. So I'm going to show you that one. If you haven't done an RDL before, it's kind of like, well, it's very similar to a deadlift. However, we just have a slightly different leg position, hip position. But it's kind of like the action that you make when you're trying to sit down on the toilet, but you don't quite reach the toilet seat, okay? I'm going to show you on the side because there are a few really key elements in this that are only visible from the side. So we're going to start off with the dumbbells resting on the front of our thighs. We're going to be really tall. So we're not trying to have any bends or breaks in the body at this point. We need to make sure that our shoulder blades are pulled back and down towards our glutes. So we don't want to have any rounding through our upper back, especially not to begin with, but at no point through the exercise should our shoulder blades be rounding to the front, okay? So that's very important. We're standing tall, got our weight through our whole foot. Our feet are about hip width apart, so they're not super wide, and that back is pulling, shoulder blades are pulling back together and down towards our bum. Then we're gonna think about pushing our glutes towards the wall. So you can actually do this in front of a wall and have that as a cue to show you that your glutes are going backwards. But we're gonna go glutes towards the wall, slight bend in our knees, and we're gonna slide those dumbbells down until you feel your hammies at their max length, and you slide back up again. So like I said, we're doing 12 reps. We just wanna make sure that the spine is straight and there's no rounding. If you need to do this in front of a mirror or film yourself, I highly recommend you do that. You can keep your head kind of in line with your spine. You don't have to keep your head up as those hands go down. You will notice I can go all the way down to my socks. I have very flexible hamstrings. I have done many deadlifts and hamstring strength and lengthen variations across my life. So if your version is just to knees, that is fine. If your version is just below the knees, also fine. So we're doing 12 reps. I'm going to guess we're at about 11. And then we're bringing it back up. In round 2, I'll show you a few different options if you don't have sufficient weight for that bilateral version to be challenging. Next up, we have got either chin-ups if you have a chin-up bar, or banded single arm pull downs. I'm going to show you both. Okay, this is the chin-up bar that I'm working with. It is not ideal because it is a little bit close to the wall, but we're going to make it work. I'm going to do underhand grip. I do not care what grip you use. And I'll do this round and then I'll show you how we do it with a band. So this is a very challenging version because I cannot use any momentum from my body. If we're doing chin-ups, we are doing 6 reps. Don't think I can walk on, please. Okay, now I'm going to show you the banded pull down version, which is most likely what you're going to be able to do at home. Okay, for this one, you're going to need a large, either a loop resistance band, or you can also use a TheraBand for this. You can either loop it through or you can tie it, and you can use like the top of a fence. If you can jam it in a doorway, you can do that too. I have a set of wall bars right here, so why not use them? We're going to pull the band through and then grab through the middle of that loop and pull it tight. This is a medium band. I would suggest at least a medium band for this exercise, if not a heavy band. So we're going to perform it half kneeling because it lengthens through your hip and it's going to make your hand position drop a little bit lower, so you're going to have to work harder for more of the exercise. Now it's really important to note that once you get yourself set up, if the band is loose while you're holding onto the band, you will not be using your muscles until the band is tight. So you need to set up high enough so there is tension on the band when your arm is at its straightest position. You'll see. So I'm going to drop into a half kneeling position. I've got the knee of the arm that is holding the band is on the ground. So as you can see, I can loop the band around the back of my hand and the band is not loose where I'm holding. However, if it was, I would pull a little bit and reach that hand up a little bit higher. So our holding point is just a little bit higher up the band. Okay, all we're going to do is pull that band vertically down. We're trying to get our elbow to come down to our side. And then we slowly release back up. So if you feel there's not much tension on the band, then you can crawl that hand further up. We're doing 12 each arm. What I want us thinking about, I'm just going to change the angle a little bit, is this shoulder blade. As we pull down, we're pulling the shoulder blade down towards our back pocket. And as the band goes up, we do let it relax at the top. So we don't have to keep it pulling down. You can let that band pull your arm up. But as we start the movement, the shoulder blade pulls down towards your back pocket. You'll notice that my torso isn't moving. So we're not using any body movements or any strength from our torso to help pull that band down. We're just using our arm and our shoulder blade. I think that's 12 reps. I'm not really sure. One day I will learn to count and talk. Okay, so we're doing the same thing on the other side. You will notice that I pull down with force, and that pull down is nice and strong, but the release is very controlled. So when we work with bands, the band pulls our arm back up because it wants to get back to that relaxed position. And the goal is to fight the band pulling us back up. Because if we just let the band pull us back up, that second half of the exercise doesn't actually use any strength at all, it doesn't increase our time under tension. Time under tension, we know, is a very strong determinant of strength improvements. So we want to resist as that band pulls our hand back up. Remembering that we're keeping our body nice and tall, and just that arm and shoulder blade are getting that band down. All right, let's go back to our RDLs. Okay, we're going on to round 2 here, and this is where I'm going to show you some progressions, because theoretically, the regression of your RDL that we did in the first round, the bilateral RDL, is just lighter weights or fewer reps. So we want to do a minimum of 8 reps, but you can choose the weight that you're able to get those 8 reps done without your form being compromised. We're going to do a B stance, or a B stance RDL, as my mum would like me to say. So this is where primarily our weight is going to be on one leg, and we're going to use the back leg to help us balance and for a small percentage of support and weight bearing. So this means that this leg is going to be strengthening and lengthening, and this back leg is just, you know, taking a bit of a sideshow stance. When we do this, you want to keep that leg nice and vertical, so you don't want to be leaning too far over to the side. You want to keep your hip, knee, and toe all aligned. And we're going to have, you can have your hands in that same position as if this left leg is still standing on the floor normally. But I normally have my back foot maybe half the width of my hips away from my front leg. And then we're going to do the same thing. So shoulder blades pulling back down towards our glutes, starting nice and tall, and then we just slide the dumbbell down that leg and pull back up. You can adjust your back foot's position if it doesn't feel comfortable, or if you need more support from your back leg. But if you are finding that this leg is not able to handle that weight, go back to your bilateral and just increase your reps up to 15. For this workout today, and then when you come back around to it, you might find that you're ready for the B stance version. We're doing 8 reps. I think I'm up to 5. That might have been 6. And then swapping over to the other side. I always find the biggest limiting factor for me with these exercises is my grip strength. I'm going to show you a side angle. So we're pushing those hips back. 5, 3 to go, 6, 7, standing tall after each rep. Weight through that whole supporting foot. Done. Okay, so I showed you a normal chin up. I've showed you a single arm lat pull down. Now I'm going to show you how we can use the band for our chin ups. This is such a great way to progress towards doing a chin up by yourself. And it's really easy to set up. If you don't have a chin up bar or something like that, we're going to stick to the lat pull downs with the band. But if you do have a chin up bar and you do have a band, this is how we're going to do it. I don't recommend climbing up on a bar. If you have got a box, use that. But you're going to pop the band over the top of the bar, pull down, and then same thing we did with the lat pull down. Pull through and then tighten. Then, okay, I really should be showing you this with the box. Anyways, you're going to stand on the box. You're going to pull the band down and loop your foot through the band, and then your weight goes onto that foot. You can put both feet in the band, but you don't need to. Then all you're going to do is that same thing. We're doing our chin ups, letting the band assist and pull us up towards the bar. Just be careful when you are getting down because the band will pull, I'll show you, your leg up. And that can be a very big stretch if you don't have flexible hamstrings. That is our second round done. Let's go back to our third and final round of our RDLs. But as I keep saying, if you want to do 4 or 5 rounds and you have the time, go for it. Okay, third and final round that we're going to be doing together. One thing I will mention with B stance RDLs is you can do these with a single dumbbell. When I do them with a single dumbbell, I like to do it with the opposite arm of the leg that is the supporting leg, because I find it helps me keep my hips and my shoulders squared up. So we don't want to have our body turning to the side. We want to keep those hips and shoulders facing the front. So this is a good option if the dumbbell weight that you have is too much for that single leg. We just regress. They're also so good for creating hamstring strength in that lengthened position. But as I mentioned, if you're not used to them, or if your hamstrings are tight, you just do the range of motion that suits you. It's important to remember with all of these, I am giving you rep ranges or reps. And when you do your rep ranges, the goal is for you to be getting to the end of that set feeling like you might not be able to do 4 or 5 more. So if you're able to, you're like, I could just do 20, then that might mean that you need to do a harder variation. Or if you have the resources, get a heavier weight. But if you're not able to finish the set, then you may need to regress the weight or do an easier version. Sometimes you can even decrease the range of motion, or you might need to decrease the reps if you don't have the ability to do an easier version, or lighten the load. So that's something that you need to work out that I can't recommend, not knowing what you're working with. All right, let's do our last set of single arm banded pull downs. Okay, remembering that we want to hold up nice and high so that the band is tight from the very beginning of the exercise. So this is what it would look like if the band was loose. You can see that there's no tension on the band. I use my other hand to help pull. We're doing 12 reps, keeping that shoulder blade pulling down towards my back pockets and controlling the release. That's 6, I think. 7, 8, 9, 10, thinking about keeping the body, the torso nice and tall. 11, and always just controlling the ascent. And then we're going to the other side. Remembering that the knee on the ground is the same knee or on the same side as the arm that is pulling. Seven, 8, 9. I'm sorry that you have to listen to me breathe. 10, 11. Last one, 12. Cool. That is round 3 of our first strength superset done. Let's go on to our second superset. Okay. Second superset, we have got overhead lunge walks paired with Z press. I love both of these exercises, especially for gymnasts, because they combine overhead strength, stability, and mobility with coordination and getting that body to move well. So, starting off with overhead lunges. Prerequisite for this is you do need to be able to do a split squat where we are aiming to get that back knee all the way to the ground. If you aren't able to get that full range of motion, you're not able to get the back knee all the way to the ground, or if you have pain through your toes, your ankles, your knees, your hips when you do these exercises, then it might not be for you and we need to regress, or you need to address the pain. However, if you are able to split squat with body weight, back knee all the way to the ground with stability, balance, control, then we're going to give these a go. However, if you're not able to do that, then let's just start with a static split squat. So both knees are pointing straight ahead, both toes pointing straight ahead, but that back heel is lifted up off the ground, and you're moving through your maximum range of motion for 8 reps each leg. So that's going to be your regression if a walking lunge is not in your wheelhouse, and that's totally fine. If you're able to do that and you want to progress it, you can hold on to dumbbells and you're going to do your static split squat. However, if you can walking lunge without weight, great, because we're going to add an overhead hold. So with this, I'm using 2 7-kilo dumbbells because this has been in my program for weeks, so I'm pretty conditioned to the exercise. However, obviously, you can start a lot lighter if you have the range of resistance. You can also do this with a weight plate, or with a medicine ball, or with leg weights, or with cans of beans, okay? Because just simply doing the exercise with a little bit of resistance overhead is gonna elevate a normal walking lunge for you. And like I said, it's gonna be a really good preparation for gymnastics. So we're gonna be doing a lunge and step together. And as I said, we're holding those dumbbells overhead. I do not mind whether your palms are facing each other or facing forward. We're going to do 8 each leg, getting that back knee as close to the ground as you can. And we're trying to walk nice and smoothly with a lot of stability. We want to think about keeping our feet on train tracks, not on a beam, okay? So imagine there are train tracks that you're sliding your legs along. We don't want our feet crossing the midline of our body. Arms are very tall, and we're trying to cover those ears, and we want to try to keep them straight. I think that's 8 each leg. All right, next up, Z press. Let's go. I have to apologize because I am starting to get a little out of breath, but I'm working out with you. So also talking and training, very challenging. Okay, Z press is an overhead press with dumbbells, but you're sitting on your bottom. So part of the reason why I love it is you get to sit in a straddle, and you know, gymnasts love straddle, okay? But the other reason I love it is because it really does isolate the overhead press. Can't use any swing because your legs are literally incapacitated. So you have to have a lot of core stability and shoulder strength in order to make this work. For that reason though, you do need to make sure you regress the weight. So if you don't have a light enough weight to make that overhead press in this position, you can do it standing up, and if need be, you can add a little boost by turning it into a push press where you use a little bit of knee bend to help kick the press off. However, we're aiming for Z press, okay? I think I mentioned this in my last workout video. One of the reasons why I love overhead pressing with dumbbells is you have so much flexibility in your grip position to allow for any shoulder issues or to help accommodate any shoulder issues. So I do have a history of shoulder injury and I like a neutral grip position. So that's what I'm going to be doing my Z press in. However, if you are more comfortable with those arms out to the side in a traditional overhead press position, that's fine. If you want to stop at any point on that spectrum, totally fine. Do the version that suits you. We're doing 8 to 12 reps. I will likely forget to count. So with all of our overhead pressing, what we're looking for is full extension. So obviously you were trying to get those arms straight. We're trying to make it so that when they do go straight, they are either side of our head. So we don't want them out in front of our head or behind our head. Just nice and tall, and thinking tall through your spine to support a good upper body posture. All right, round 1 done. Let's go back to our overhead lunges. Okay, round 2. Now it is important to mention that obviously if the overhead position does not suit you, you have any physical limitations there, then you can drop the dumbbells down to your sides. You can do a goblet position, so that's under the chin, or you can use a medicine ball or kettlebells if they're more comfortable for you to hold other than that overhead position. As I mentioned, you can also use a weight plate, which is what I normally use for my overhead lunges, because I find it increases the stability challenge because you have to keep that weight plate balanced on your hands. Don't know if I've done the right amount of reps. We don't want to let those arms loosen out to the sides. Keep them in tight. Okay, Z press. Those lunges are getting me. Second round, second exercise. I'm going to show you these ones from the side so you can see the line that my torso and shoulders carry. If only turning sideways meant you couldn't hear my heavy breathing. All right, 1, 2, we want to push up with control and drop with control. 6, as always, if there is clicking, grinding, pain with the shoulders, we need to choose a different exercise or seek medical advice. 12. I think that was 12. All right, second round done. Third round, let's go. Right. First 2 rounds I was doing 7 kilos. We're gonna do 10 kilos, so wish me luck. Because the arms are feeling a little bit noodly. 1, 2, 3, 4. You keep an eye, make sure I don't look like I'm losing control. That's halfway. 1, 2, oh gosh, 3, 4, 5, 2, one more actually, 6, 7, 8, oh, nearly got me. I'm sorry, but there's a bit of heavy breathing happening now. Last set. We're aiming for 12. I think I'm gonna have to just concentrate on counting for this set. All right. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you got it. 11, 12. Oh, that left arm did not want to do the last 2 reps. Okay, that is the body of this strength session done. Now you have an optional core finisher. So if you are out of time, awesome work, off you go. Go have a shower, have a drink, pat yourself on the back. But if you've got an extra 5-10 minutes, we're gonna do this core finisher, which all of my gymnasts I'm sure will love. Let's go. Okay, 3 exercises in this core finisher. I have got my shoes off because of the first exercise. If you want to leave them on, you can. However, I do think that the chunky heels on sneakers makes what we're about to do harder. Okay, gymnasts, we're going to do pike or straddle hold on the floor. This is not a beginner exercise, so I'm going to go through all of your options. Number one, if you are able to get your bum off the ground, that is great. That is plenty, okay? The full version is a pike hold, so legs and bum off the ground, holding yourself up with just your hands. However, you've got a lot of options. So like I said, if we can just get bum off the ground, heels can stay off the ground, great. Another option is to grab your dumbbells, pop them either side of your thighs and use those to help get your bum off the ground, or you may be able to get your feet off the ground there too. Yoga blocks. If you have got yoga blocks, these are great. You definitely need two because you can go harder version, easier version. Just make sure they're stable enough to hold you. Same thing, you can do it with just your bum, or if you're able to get your bum and your feet off, great. So the goal here is going to be 10 seconds of effort. So that means that if you can only get your bum off the ground for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, drop back down, quick rest, 4, 5, 6, okay? So we're gonna do it cumulatively. So that means that if you need a break, take a quick break and then get back up and go again until you get to 10 seconds. I theoretically can do a pike hold for 10 seconds. So you guys are gonna watch and see and keep me accountable. All right, so get the setup that you need. If this is not good on your wrist, you can do it on your knuckles or your fingertips. You're gonna have less stability there, and if you do have weak fingers, that's not gonna feel great. So I recommend one of the other options if that suits you better. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As I mentioned, you can do straddle hold. So if you find straddle easier, go for that. I personally think pike is actually easier for most people. So that's what I suggest. Okay, exercise number 2. We are doing 10 tabletop to dish. Once again, I told you my gymnasts would like this. Okay, so you can do this without a weight, and we can do our dead bugs, which I think we did in the last workout. So I'll quickly show you dead bugs, and then I'll show you the full version, and you do the version that suits you. So tabletop is knees at 90 degrees, hips at 90 degrees, arms vertical. And then we're gonna see if we can extend one leg and one arm, and that's our dead bug, okay? So that's the regression. Head can stay on the ground, shoulders are on the ground, back is flat on the ground. So you have that option if you need it. And then I'll show you a few options for the full version. This is the full version. Tabletop with our head and shoulders off the ground. Then we're going to extend both of our arms and both of our legs at the same time. Like I said, we're doing 10 reps. We're going to give that a go for this first round. So that's 1, 2, ensuring our back is pressed flat into the ground. 3, trying to get those arms as far back as you can and keeping your shoulders off the ground. Whenever I do dish, I shake. I always have, I think we're up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fabulous. Okay, next round I'll show you a few more options. I was using a 3-kilo dumbbell. You do not need heavy to feel your core working in that one. Then last thing is our Superman angel wings. You can do these with weight plates or light, very light dumbbells, or leg weights, or beer cans, or cans of beans. I'm talking 0.5 kilo, 1 kilo, no more than 3 kilos, I would say, but we're just going to do them body weight. Let's pop you off to the side. So there are a few options here. So if you do have shoulder issues, you may find that these are a little uncomfortable or you get a little bit of cracking. So if that's the case, you may just want to go back to our T's and Y's from my last video. However, if you want to give the Superman Angel Wings a go, we start with the W, the I, and if you feel comfortable with that, then we're going to go to the version that we're doing in today's session. We're doing 10. So you can do this with your legs relaxed. However, of course, gymnastics, we're going to do it in a Superman, so both legs together and off the ground. So we start with our arms down by our sides, legs squeezed together, knees straight. We'll bring those arms straight up to our ears and back. We're doing 10 reps. We're keeping our head looking at the ground. We're trying to think about lengthening rather than lifting our legs and arms as high as we can. But each time those arms come up, we are trying to get them to our ears or above our ears. I think that's 7, 8, I'm getting a cramp in my foot, 9, 10. Lovely. Round 1 done. We're going to do 2 more rounds. So we're going back to our pike hold. You can have a rest, but if you want to just do these 3 rounds back to back, you sure can. So we're going into 10-second pike hold. Remember, you have all your different options there. If you start off with a pike hold and then your feet drop and you can't lift your feet back up again, that's okay. Do the rest of the 10 seconds just lifting your bottom. As long as we're trying to get a little bit further than where we were before, that's all. Kicking off in 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you got a cramp, I'm not surprised. I nearly got one too. Okay, going into our tabletop to dish. As I promised, I'm going to give you some regressions. First and most obvious is no weight. As I said before, you do have the dead bugs option, but if you are ready for a challenge, you can do 10 reps, just body weight. Main thing is we're keeping that back. Main thing is we're keeping that back pressed down firmly into the ground throughout the exercise while still maintaining our breathing. Something I'm not great at. Okay, we've done 3 reps, sorry. Next option or regression is both arms, but single leg. Okay? The other option with regressions is just extending those legs a little bit higher. I feel like we're definitely at 10, but I don't have a weight this time. So I'm going to go to 15. Cool. The other option you have for making it easier or harder is doing the whole thing with your shoulders and head on the ground. Harder, adding a pause each time you go into that dish position and then slowly coming back to tabletop. So controlled out, pause, slow in. So if you don't have a weight that suits, you got all those options. All right, we're going into our Superman Angel Wings, remembering you can do this, the Y's and T's, 10 of each. You can do W to I. You can do just arms, no legs. Or you can even add very light weights to your hands. Making sure if you are working on gymnastics, keeping your legs together and your knees straight
And we want to think about lifting those legs using our glutes and our hamstrings, not our lower back.
That's round 2 done. We've got one more round and then we're finished. Okay. One thing, I'm sure nobody wants to hear this, but you can progress your pike sit. 2 options. You can change it to a Russian sit, or like training for a manna, which is like the mag version, which is where we bring our knees into our chest, or try to get our legs more vertical. That is definitely beyond my capacity at this late stage in my life. Back in the day, I would have given it a go, but that's one option. Or you can just add, do I show you? I don't even think I could do it with a dumbbell on my feet. Get a dumbbell on your feet, or leg weights. If you have leg weights, you can pop them over your ankles, even just half a kilo. That's what some of my gymnasts do that are very much go-getters. Me, 10-second pike hold is sufficient. So, last round, let's kick it off. Ready, set, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh, I don't think that is as good as it should be. All right, then we're doing our tabletop to dish for 10 reps. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going at your own pace. 5, 6. We're doing the version that suits you. 7, 8, 9. What fun! Oh, it burns. All right, very last thing for today's session. Let's get it done. We're finishing off with our Superman angel wings. Here we go. 1, 2, at your own. I'm so sorry, the audio cut out just in those last few reps of our Superman angel wings. But thank you so much for joining me for another workout. Congratulations. I am so proud of you for completing that training session and doing something that is a form of self-care and self-respect. I really believe that training, stretching, moving your body is a form of self-respect, and it makes me feel really good about myself, and it has a very significant impact on my self-confidence for many, many reasons. So if you're anything like that, I'm very proud of you, because it means a lot to set aside even 10 or 15 or 30 minutes or an hour to do something. Mike's out of battery, but thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. I definitely thrive on feedback. So if you have any comments or requests or suggestions, please don't hesitate to drop them below. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram, and obviously here it's gymnast.fit. And I plan on doing these sessions once a week, if not more frequently when I get a little bit faster at doing it. So please, make sure you have subscribed if you did enjoy this video, so that you are ready to go when the next one pops up. And if you know anybody that actually you'd like to do them with, or you think would enjoy these sessions or would benefit from these sessions, I would really appreciate it if you send these videos their way. I absolutely love training people, but because I am a full-time gymnastics coach, the fitness side of my profession and my passion doesn't get as much time anymore. So this is an opportunity for me to continue to train for strength and conditioning, which I love. So this gives me an opportunity to continue to connect with people and train with people and show people how capable they are and what they are made of. Honestly, I know I've already said it, but the confidence that you gain from doing hard things like training sessions and the way that it makes you feel is just so invaluable. So I'm really glad to be able to share that with whoever is enjoying these workouts. So as I said, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on doing something for yourself, and I'll see you in the next workout.